what is going on YouTube? This is Acid Roots. This is part 32 to Let's Play Super Mario World as far as these fairs going to happen. So within these particular type products about it, yeah, a little bit of jet lag with this episode type fair with them pitches like that. Originally I was going to have this surface in November, but this particular, I don't know, this was not, you could say more or less laziness, but also just kind of within the conduct of this, I don't know, just kind of felt like, I'm kind of more not as much in a hurry to kind of get these episodes belted out. I mean, I realize that for folks who wanted to see the completion of this playthrough, it's been since 2022, but it's kind of the pitch as far as saying there's just not a super ton of games really left to do. I mean, within the aspect, you know, looking past, getting past some of these Super Nintendo games, I have a few more of these in mind to kind of get towards as far as these fairs going to happen, talking about, like, obviously whether or not I would do the Super Nintendo Zelda and some of those type ones. I don't know, I kind of lost the spirit for wanting to do Super Metroid. I had the spark to want to do that back in 2020, but that was half a decade ago, almost 6 years ago, pitched like that. I don't know, that is kind of a trialing game. I mean, it doesn't start off that way, but the last half of that game, once you start getting past like the first two of the main four bosses, when you get to some of those type ones, it really starts becoming like a trial. And I remember when I beat that game back in 2015, for folks that remember when I blogged about it back in the Acidic Roots days, but it's this kind of pitch. I don't know, there's just not a super ton. I thought about doing Yoshi's Island, some of those type ones, but it's just kind of the trial as far as saying to some of these type products, I'm just running out of Super Nintendo games, and I really don't know about firing up, like, I mean, the Nintendo 6, the thing about, like, doing, like, game machines like the Nintendo 64 or any further type ones is I just, I don't know, I'm losing, like, the spunk to be able to play those types of games. Like, I think, like, it wasn't too recent, but there was a time somewhere within, like, the past 7 or 8 years that I tried playing Mario 64. I just cannot take the dosage of that game anymore. That's just, like, there's just, I'm more stationed towards Super Nintendo and old Nintendo games, just kind of the pitch. Some of those type ones, like, it's not so much the beginning of the game, but when, it just wouldn't be, like, a full completion of that when you think of, like, the you know, the rainbow stage where you can fall this to your death, and pretty much the whole majority of that stage you can fall to your death in. Some of those, it's just a nightmare trying to get towards that, and some of those type ones. I mean, I do like the Zelda for the Nintendo 64, the Ocarina of Time, but some of those type ones, it's just a vast kind of nightmarish type trial. So it's just kind of pitched, but I do have some treats in mind within certain aspects. Like I said, I thought about doing like Super Mario World, the Lost Levels, the vanilla kind of ROM hack of this particular game. Some of these type pitches is just kind of fair as far as trying to figure out what to fire up, whether or not I'm going to purchase Lord of the Rings, or there's some other game I mentioned back in Mystic Quest back in September and August that I was kind of saying within those pitches as far as saying, like, I had like a series of games that I had kind of handpicked as far as like some ones that I thought about possibly purchasing. It was like some game, I forget what it was called, but like it wasn't Dungeons and Dragons, but it was something like, I forget what it was. It's one of those type ones within those pitches, but just some of those type fairs, and it's kind of underneath the product whether or not I'd go to the trouble of getting it. I don't know if it's going to be as dynamic, whether or not I'm going to pick up like a brand spanking new game like I did with the Metal Gear Solid VR Missions one, but it's just kind of pitch as far as saying I do have some games in mind. Like the next one after this, it's not like it's going to be some shell shock kind of just anchor of this channel that's going to breathe new life and do it full bound. It's just kind of pitch. It just is more like stop gaps for some of these type fairs. And within the pitch, yeah, I could do Yoshi's Island, some of these type ones, but it's just kind of product that there's just only so many, because yeah, more or less I just would say soon enough it's just going to be like ROM hacks, and then just you know, the thing about it is, you know, Nintendo themselves, to talk about them, they're not too fond of that stuff. I mean, they're barely fond of, like, even, like, walkthroughs can kind of being on YouTube. They really just want you to buy the game and play it. They don't really like you making money off of their content, so it's just kind of fair. I mean, they're not hateful about it, but it's just apprehended kind of with the way it kind of happens. So it's just kind of pitched, but I look after it. I mean, I don't think I'm in any direct worry concerning the fact that this is not a monetized channel, but it's just kind of pitch as far as saying it's just the aspect as far as just like some of those type of fairs, but it's just kind of pitch. I mean, it's not as if like there's any hate and foulness, but it's just kind of pitch as far as saying you just have to This is more that just running out of games. If I just don't know if I would want to reach a stage where the only thing I was doing is just like hacks and some of those types of things, whether or not, because I think sprinkling those, I don't think Nintendo cares as much full bound if you have the occasional, but it kind of makes me wonder how much the full bound kind of, but that's just that I'm gonna do. I'm not gonna say I'm going to, but there's a likelihood within those fairs. I do like Super Mario World, the Lost Levels enough to want to fuck with it, but I said this before within the pitch, but some of these type of fairs, it's really tough. It's a tougher game, just like when you think of the actual Lost Levels game, some of those type pitches. You cannot just as like a primer. I might eventually at some stage kind of put this particular game in a playlist with that particular one to kind of have it be like a super one. It'd probably be over 50 or 70 videos in it, but it's this kind of pitch. You don't get one-ups, and you can't start and select to get out of the stage as far as this pitch. So you have to, if you go in the stage, you have to complete it or you have to die. So it's this kind of pitch. It's just kind of those fairs, but yeah. I don't know, it's just kind of just me trying to figure out some of these next ones. I thought about doing Zelda, but Zelda really pisses me off. Just talk about that one. It's a great game. It's a capital type game, pitches like that. I definitely have to say I do enjoy that game within the pitch. It's one of the most basic type ones to kind of fuck with in terms of like not something that's like super kind of like complete this hardcore type fair, but it's just kind of pitch as far as saying this has the aspect as far as it just is it's an asking game. This is kind of fair. I like the game. It's a thorough type one, definitely a hit, but it's just kind of concept that if you're not committed to it, it's just moreover going to piss you off. And I probably would be playing that game if I started it in 2026 until like 2032 or something. It's not something. It's not so much like the light. It's not so much like the light side of things that's that annoying, but some of those later type ones, having to remember to get like the medallions. I know I've said this in some previous type of episode, but just as far as me saying getting those medallions, the fair about it, I would have to watch some particular playthrough to do it, which is not that much of a deal, but it's just kind of pitch as far as saying you just would have to say and stuff that I think that's what it would come down to is I'd get to like the point where you would have like those because really they don't make you do it with like the first 6, 7, or 8 dungeons pitches like that, but I think there's like 12 or 13, and those last 2 or 3 you have to get the medallions, and if you don't, then you just can't progress. And it's just kind of fair. So it's just kind of that concept. I know I'd forget it, and then it would have like a whole saga, and I just would get caught up in that jet lag. But I don't know. It's just kind of fair. It's just about having the tidiness pitches like that. But this fair about it, this is some good type fair. So I just would go get some Taco Bell going, some of those type pitches. Basically there's 4 more stages, and then the boss fights. Is to say we're going to get these souped up as far as these first kind of excellent type pitches. Subscribe for more fun. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful night, folks.